My girlfriend refused to let her terminally ex see his dog, so I took it to him. My girlfriend kept the dog that her ex had after they broke up. It's originally his and he tried to get it back, but she wouldn't let him. I heard he stopped trying to get it back after a while because he got sick. It's been months now. I heard that her ex was very sick and had sent his relative to try to tell my girlfriend to let him see the dog, but she refused and threatened to call the cops on them. I found this so cruel of her, especially since it's originally his dog, so that was unnecessary, cruel and unsympathetic. Despite not being a huge fan of dogs, I put it in my car, contacted the guy, her ex, and went over to his mother's house to let him see the dog. He cried when he saw his dog and spent 2 hours with it before I took it back. He was so appreciative, though I only did this because of being human. I know if I was in his place I'd want someone to help me see my beloved pet when my ex keeps refusing for no reason other than to be bitter and petty. The guy passed away days ago. Thinking about it, I feel relieved that I did what I did, although I can't tell anyone. She doesn't know that I drove the dog to her ex that day while she was at work. I gave myself an allergic reaction so my grandma would go to the hospital. I, 17 male, have been raised by my grandma and uncle my entire life. About 2 years ago something was really wrong with grandma. She was crying in pain, and absolutely looked horrible, but refused to go to the doctor. She was waiting out a chance to just mention it in a doctor's appointment that was literally 2 months away. She was falling, her legs were practically turning purple, the works. I finally couldn't take it and I had this impending feeling that if she didn't go to the doctor soon she would not be okay. So I made a plan. I am allergic to bananas, I puke, struggle to breath, and my lips swell up if I eat them. My grandma loves bananas and my reaction only happens when I eat them. So I went to the kitchen in the middle of the night and ate a banana, and then woke up my grandma and uncle to let them know I was having a reaction. It was more of me desperately patting my uncle awake while trying to breathe than him waking up my grandma. They took me to the hospital where my uncle managed to convince her to get checked out while she was there. I was fine, but we ended up finding out that the reason my grandma was doing so bad was due to her thyroids, diabetes, and blood pressure issues all acting up around the same time. She was extremely likely to have a heart attack soon if they hadn't put her on the medication sooner, and that was a bad risk considering she's had heart attacks before. She ended up staying at the hospital a few days and was so much happier and calm when they discharged her. I will never let her know that I ate that banana on purpose. I told them that I had just woken up in the middle of the night and ate it while half asleep because I was hungry and wasn't thinking clearly. I regret nothing and am so glad grandma was able to her help.
My husband hid things from me before he left for his business trip. Before my husband embarked on his trip to Canada, he told me there were things hidden in our house that I didn't know about. I was perplexed, but I asked him to elaborate. He explained that he had purchased 5 gifts for me, one for each day he would be gone, and had stashed them all around our home. He said he would text me a clue or riddle each day for a particular gift. I know this sub isn't really a fan of the gooey, romantic posts, but my heart burst and I immediately turned the shade of a ripe tomato. I don't know how I came to have such a stupendous man in my life, but I am certainly fortunate. The first gift was my very own pre-rolled J. To preface this, I had had a supremely crappy day at work, and had been stuck in traffic for almost 2 hours on my way home. I could not help myself. When I saw it, tears started rolling down my cheeks like raindrops. I felt the stress of the day melt away with that first hit. This was such a simple, yet loving gesture. I texted him and told him how much I loved him, and that I was thinking of him as I chiefed my heart out. Now for the part I want to get off my chest. He has no idea that I went out and bought him some welcome home gifts and stashed them around our house. I created a scavenger hunt for him as well, with my own little twist. I can barely contain myself and I cannot wait for him to get home late Wednesday night and find them all. I hope he likes them. Anyway, if you read this far, I appreciate you letting me prattle on. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Today I messed up by taking it up the rear on the first date. I just came home from the most embarrassing date ever and now I want to curl up into a ball and evaporate. I went on this date with a guy. Let's call him Lenny. Anyway, Lenny and I had a great time at the start of our date. I truly felt that we had an amazing connection, and the lead up to it with us texting and talking on the phone every now and then was also amazing, but the amazingness was about to explode in great globs of fire. We eventually went back to his place and quickly wound up exposed. Things were getting hot and heavy, and me having a bit of rear end fixation. I exclaimed mid-lovemaking, "I want you to F my arse." Lenny obliged, but since I didn't prep we took it to the bathroom, where there was inevitably a bit of mess, but nothing too concerning, though it certainly did seem to loosen some stubborn stools. After the deed was done and we cleaned everything up, we went back into Lenny's bedroom where we cuddled. I could feel a fiery hot gas making its way out of my tender hole. It was too forceful to control, and what happened next was terrifying. Brown lava shot out of me like a geyser. Lenny had turned pale as a ghost and I was lost for words, as I couldn't fathom that I crapped on this man's bed, and got some on his leg. He remained calm, let me tear up his bathroom like a hurricane and clean up once more. After what felt like an eternity, I left, having apologized profusely in lieu of ruining this poor man's night. Safe to say there won't be a second date. My disabled husband told me I can't leave him because no one will want me. He's been a wheelchair user for 2 years, he's also suffering from chronic heart problems and I'm his sole caregiver. I noticed he's been intentionally rude and more needy. I can't complain about the constant demands all day long, and when I say something, he'd accuse me of abusing him and taking advantage of this power imbalance in our marriage. Last night he woke me up in the middle of the night just to ask me to unplug his phone from charging and give it to him. I was upset. I argued with him, complaining about him waking me up. He snapped and told me that this is how it is and I have to deal with it. He also told me I can't leave him or divorce him because no one would want or take me because I'm not physically attractive nor financially doing well nor young, then went on about how I'll never find someone like him, probably meant his physical features like eyes, hair, etc. This made me break down and cry in the bathroom. He felt stuck and despised and disrespected and unappreciated. I could not imagine he'd say this about me after all that I'd sacrificed in order to take care of him.
Today I messed up by not wearing underwear. The event happened 2 days ago, but I wasn't aware of the mess up until now. This past Sunday was a normal evening. Got home from the gym, showered, threw on my favorite pajamas and started to cook dinner. While my chicken was in the air fryer, I was scrolling on Instagram. I saw some of my female friends go live. I joined in and started chatting with them, and they eventually said they want to come and hang out at my house for a bit. When they got here, we were sitting on my back porch watching Netflix, having casual conversation and petting my dog. So kinda abruptly, after only being here 20 minutes, one of them said they wanted to go home. Kinda confused, I drove them home and that was that. Fast forward 2 days later, I stopped by their house to pick up something I had left. My 2 female friends and their older brother, one of my best friends, had just got home. The 2 girls didn't even look at me and immediately walked into the house. My best friend walks over to me with a serious face and says, "I need to talk to you." Confused, I say, "Sure, what's up?" He then begins to explain that I had essentially flashed my schlong to his sister and her friend multiple times that night. Literal dread begins to fill my body as I try to explain that it wasn't on purpose and it had to have been the old pair of pajamas I was wearing at the time. If anyone has ever had to plead their innocence in a situation like this, let me tell you, no matter what you say, it never sounds good. He seemed skeptical of my apology but accepted it and I left. I took it upon myself to write out an apology to them, but they deleted me on socials without responding. Today I messed up by peeing off the side of a mountain. So I, 32 male, and my girlfriend, 33 female, were out enjoying our annual anniversary vacation. This year we had decided to do some hiking through Appalachia and had ended up in Red River Gorge, Kentucky. The scenery is amazing, the weather was great. I figured I wasn't going to get a better opportunity to pop the question. Well, any gentleman knows better than to get down on one knee in the middle of the trail. You wait until you're at the highest peak. Unfortunately, nature called long before we got to that point. Now, every guy knows that the higher the ledge you pee off of, the more authority you have. So I found a pleasant little overlook, did my business and carried on with my proposal in mind. Along the way we passed a few other hikers, said our greeting and kept moving towards the top. Once we had reached the summit of this particular rock, she sat down and I tried to mentally prepare myself to get things just right. So once I'd gotten myself psyched up, I put my hand into my pocket and palmed the ring, knelt down in front of her, and she said, "I see your wiener." Turns out, I had forgotten to zip myself back up and the little flippy flaps of my boxer shorts failed to do their job, so there I am on one knee, trying to make this a memorable moment, and failing successfully. After flopping through the proposal, we stopped and realized that I may have flashed a few innocent hikers as well. I've read through my girlfriend's journaling and it disturbed me. I've been dating this girl for a little over a year, long distance. We see each other on a monthly basis, a week, 2 at a time, and everything felt good outside of occasional overthinking and anxiety on her behalf. Other than that, we've communicated properly, not a single fight with raised voices. Conflict is resolved by a compromise and conversation. It's as good as it gets. She met most of my friends, including female friends, and I've met hers too. As I was visiting her recently, I was asking to see her notes on something work-related. We more or less share a professional field, and as she pointed at a black notebook in the direction of the bedroom, well, I found a black notebook in her bedroom. As I opened it, it became apparent it was her journaling notebook, and the crap I've seen there made me feel uneasy. It's covered page to page with resentment towards me, where every time I would go out with my friends, she'd assume I'm cheating or, to quote, with another bitch, when my friends are at my house, we'd listen to their playlists on my account, and she'd track that on Spotify and assume I'm cheating because it's normally not the music I listen to. It's such a nightmare fuel, because I could have placed every record to a situation where I was having a beer with my male friend, not once gave a reason to doubt me and over-communicated every time, including changes of locations, people I was with, what time I got home with audio messages. As in, I know I haven't cheated, and those notes made me feel like there's a larger mental distress at hand. Now I'm stuck, because on the surface, the relationship is great, but the level of distortion of facts that's happening inside her brain is alerting. Today I messed up by telling my entire college class what type of pee I watch. This didn't happen today, but actually a few months ago during my anthropology class. I was going to post the same day it happened but was still recovering from embarrassment. So, we get to the part of the semester where we're learning about human sexuality. At the beginning of the lecture, the professor reminds us we're all adults and he doesn't want any immaturity or giggling during this lesson. For much of the lecture, the room is silent aside from students asking and answering questions. The professor talks about a lot of intimate stuff and it's met with complete maturity. At one point the professor explains how a lot of intimate desires are social taboos. For example, he pulls up recent statistics from a popular adult website, top 100 searches in the US. Transgender-related searches were at the top of the list. At the same time, transphobic bills and hate crimes are at an all-time high in the US. Before moving on to the next slide, the professor takes a quick glance at the list and noticed joy somewhere in the middle. The professor says, "I just noticed this. What the heck is joy?" And me, I love to answer questions first when I know them. So I immediately raise my hand and say J off instructions, without thinking about how this would make me look. The silence finally breaks and the class busts out laughing. Thankfully the professor giggled a bit too and no one got into any trouble. Plus he's chill, but safe to say, I was very embarrassed.
The guy I'm seeing ended things because I am living in my car. I'm 22 female. This is not to hate on him. He had every right to not want to be someone who's homeless. I'm just venting because I'm sad and have no one to talk to. He's a good guy. I've been living in my car for about 8 months now. I just went through a few months or absolute hell, ended up living in my car and everything spiraled and it's just been hard to get out. I started seeing a guy about 5 months ago. I never told him, which was a mistake, but I was embarrassed and having someone around was so nice I didn't want to lose him. I also was able to hide it well because I work at a hotel restaurant, so I get to use the hotel gym for free and kept my stuff in my cubby at work. I also thought I was gonna get out of it a lot sooner. Homelessness has been like a black hole for me. I just can't seem to break out. This week I finally told him about it because he wanted to know why my car was always in my work parking lot because he drove last after we were closed a few times. I told him and he broke up with me immediately because it wasn't something he wanted to deal with. Obviously understandable. I only stayed at his place one night but I miss laying in a bed so much already. I also just miss having someone to talk to, especially at nighttime. He was also my first kiss. I had quite the messed up childhood and teen years so I had never even been on a date when I met him. I guess everyone has to have their first breakup lol. On a side note, fingers crossed I get one of the rooms I applied for this week.
My girlfriend wants to break up because I make us split the pay for dates. My girlfriend and I are both in college. I work part-time and have substantial savings. However, my girlfriend has been unemployed for years and relies solely on her parents for financial support. I've never been a huge spender, and I'm a pretty good saver. We go out to eat a lot, and we always pay for our own food. She has organized and paid for a few dates, but I made sure to pay for both of our meals afterward to even things out. She has complained that I never took her out on a single date, so I surprised her with one. After we finished, we decided to go see Barbie, and I asked her to pay for both of our tickets because I had paid for the meal. I like to keep our dates 50-50, so I occasionally ask her to cover both of us because it's impossible to survive in this economy otherwise. I guess her breaking point came last week when I gave her the gift I bought for her. It was a $20 candle, and I told her I was going to get her something else, but then I remembered I bought her something a few weeks before. I think she's mad because, for my birthday, she bought me a cake, candles, gifts, and a card and was expecting me to do the same. In the past, I have bought her better gifts. I thought she was happy until she began complaining a few days later that she wishes I did a bit more for her and at least took her out on dates. She told me she needs space and is really considering ending the relationship. To me, that sounds like a bit of an extreme reason to end the relationship. But maybe it's not. I don't know. It's my first relationship, and I'm learning.